Hello, I'm Ann Little, Chief Financial Officer for Austin Energy, and it's my pleasure to present the 5-year forecast for the electric utility. I am optimistic about Austin Energy's future, and this optimism is driven by 3 changes that have occurred in the past year. First of all, our rate increase was implemented, and adequate revenues are available to cover typical operations and maintenance expenses and also our fixed cost. Second, in November of 2012, Standard & Poor's increased their rating for Austin Energy from an A+ to a AA-. Moody's and Fitch both reaffirmed their ratings of A1 and AA- respectively. All 3 rating agencies indicated a stable outlook for Austin Energy, contingent upon maintenance of adequate revenues and an increase in our cash and cash reserves. Third, economic recovery for Austin is evident, and growth is in our forecast. All 3 of these changes and the assumptions that are embedded in our 5-year forecast will allow Austin Energy to realign with its strategic goals after 4 years of operating in a deficit position. We'll be able to make system improvements and system expansions to meet growth and maintenance. We'll also be able to review and enhance our renewable energy programs and energy efficiency programs. We'll begin to replenish our cash reserves that are depleted. These goals and objectives in our 5-year forecast will allow Austin Energy to continue our mission to deliver clean, affordable, reliable energy and excellent customer service. Currently, in fiscal year 2013, revenues are expected to slightly exceed total requirements, but the outcome is heavily dependent on the summer weather ahead of us. Austin Energy's revenues are derived from the sale of electricity, transmission revenue, leasing of infrastructure for telecommunications, and chilled water, which is becoming quite profitable. Operations and maintenance expenses include fuel and power supply costs, and the cost to deliver electricity and to serve customers. Capital projects include system improvements, transmission and distribution construction to serve new growth, and software, hardware, and communications needs to serve our customers and to meet ERCOT and NERC requirements. The remaining revenues are needed for debt service and transfers. Austin Energy currently serves over 420,000 customers. Our total generation capacity is 3,467 megawatts, and about 1,000 megawatts are from renewable energy. We have 72 substations and about 12,000 miles of line. Customer service is a very important part of Austin Energy's mission. We have one of the most comprehensive and general customer assistance programs in the nation, and our call centers are highly rated. Even with the rate increase and the implementation of a new billing system, Austin Energy received better than average satisfaction ratings from J.D. Power and Associates. In the chart, you will see on the left, it represents our residential rankings, and the chart on the right represents the commercial rankings. The black line in the middle represents the regional average, and the orange line is Austin Energy's ranking. And you can see that we are above the regional average in both sectors. Austin Energy's credit rating is a good indicator of financial integrity and overall performance. As I said earlier, Austin Energy received an uptick from Standard & Poor's to a AA-. A balanced set of performance measures will help us to maintain this rating. System Average Interruption Frequency Index, or SAIFI as we call it, is a measure of reliability. It measures the number of outages per customer over a year. And as you can see on this chart, our results are better than the target and also better than the national average. Debt service coverage, days of cash on hand, and the debt equity performance measures are all financial indicators. Debt service coverage and debt equity are at target levels, but days of cash on hand is of concern. The rating agencies expect us to have a minimum of 150 days of cash on hand, and we currently only have about 68. One generation outage can easily cost us $50 to $100 million. And with the ERCOT market cap at $5,000 per megawatt, the cost delta can easily cost us more than $1 million per hour. So building our cash reserves is one of Austin Energy's goals in the 5-year forecast. Our current credit ratings are contingent upon improvement in our cash reserve levels. Renewable energy and demand-side management are measures intended to ensure that Austin Energy's generation portfolio is clean. These performance measures are for fiscal year 2012, and we're slightly behind our target here, but both goals are expected to be reached or exceeded by the end of this fiscal year, which is September of 2013. Affordability is an important test to ensure electric rates are competitive, and our current rates are lower than most utilities in Texas. And we are currently meeting both of these targets. Our 5-year forecast is summarized in the fund summary format. The first line item is the beginning balance. The beginning and the ending balance are sometimes confused with cash. The beginning balance currently includes only about $50 million of cash, about $150 million of accounts receivable, offset by about $80 million in accounts payable and a few other current receivables and payables. So you can see that not all of the beginning balance is available for use. Revenues are expected to increase at an annual average growth of about 3.6%. And program costs are driven by fuel, ERCOT market prices, and material and contract costs, which are escalating at about 3% annually. Debt service does not increase over this 5-year forecast period because our 2012 bond issue interest rates were the lowest since the 1950s, and debt payments were structured to reduce fluctuations in payments. CIP, which is our capital improvement program, fluctuates with construction needs and growth. The general fund transfer and the administrative transfer both reflect the current city policies, using 12% of non-fuel revenue in the general fund transfer calculation and the city allocation formulas for the shared service expenses. Austin Energy reserve transfers are important to this planning period. In order to maintain our credit rating and to pay for unplanned events, the reserves must be replenished. And you can see that replenishment begins in fiscal year 2015. For the first time in 4 years, revenues exceed expenses, and that's shown on the excess line. These excesses are needed for unexpected events. The last row shows our FTEs, and we have not increased these since 2009, so an increase in FTE count is included in this forecast. Austin Energy's total requirements for the fiscal year 2014 budget are almost the same as last year's budget. The primary drivers of the 2014 forecast are increases in $10 million in citywide support services and employee benefits. Additions of 13 FTEs are estimated to cost about $1 million annually, and a 3% increase in materials and supplies used for construction and contract costs will be needed to catch up with inflation and pent-up demands caused by 4 years of project deferrals and cutbacks. The power supply forecast is very preliminary at this time, but a small increase is expected. Now that estimate could change during the summer months if a forced outage occurs or if ERCOT market prices are higher than forecast. Austin Energy jointly owns South Texas Project and the Fayette Power Plant. The operations and maintenance for these generation plants are predicted to decrease in the 2014 budget due to cutbacks and fewer planned outages. Another decrease is in economic growth and redevelopment, EGRSO expense. Due to a new city allocation, Austin Energy will receive an annual reimbursement from the general fund and other city departments of approximately $1.5 million in 2014. The reimbursement will continue to increase up to about $6 million in 2017. A breakdown of our 5-year operations and maintenance forecast is shown at the business unit level. Starting at the back of the chart with the blue block, Fuel and power supply estimates are based on normal weather, so the fluctuations shown are due to market price changes and growth. The only other business unit that has a steep increase is electric service delivery, which is the next block. This is due to the transmission build-out mandated by ERCOT to relieve congestion. Austin Energy's portion in 2013 is about $84 million, and it's expected to grow to about $132 million by 2018. The remaining business unit expenses are growing at a rate slightly lower than the CPI change or inflation for the forecast period, which is about 3.2%. Employees at Austin Energy are highly valued, and the cost of employee labor and benefits is very small compared to operations and maintenance. Labor costs are only about 14% of total operations and maintenance, and only about 10% of Austin Energy's total requirements. This chart shows Austin Energy's FTE forecast for the 5-year period. We forecast a need of 13 FTEs for 2014 and to continue to add 10 to 13 per year thereafter to meet growth and expansion of services. Customer growth is forecasted at about 1% per year, while employee growth is maintained at less than 1% per year. And you may remember that no FTEs have been added since 2009. Austin Energy's 5-year capital projects forecast is $1.2 billion. The annual average is about $240 million, and about 55% is financed with debt. The largest project in our 5-year plan is the expansion of the Sand Hill Energy Center. The combined cycle gas plant capacity and efficiency will be increased. Construction is expected to begin in 2015, and it will be completed or online for use by the summer of 2017. Austin Energy's capital construction plan for fiscal year 2014 includes almost 300 individual projects. System improvements, replacements, and upgrades are scheduled for generation, transmission, and distribution. Necessary environmental and safety improvements are scheduled throughout the forecast period. Expansion projects are included to increase generation capacity, chilled water capacity, to build substations and lines, and to add new service locations. And a few of these projects are listed. Austin Energy's construction and expansion plan is displayed by core business units. Starting at the back of the chart, distribution projects will make up about 30% of the 5-year plan. They will include replacements and additions of poles, lines, transformers, and equipment needed to deliver electricity to all customers. Generation is the next business unit, and the spike in the middle that's evident displays the cost for the Sand Hill Combined Cycle Expansion project. Generation costs are about 38% of the 5-year CIP forecast. The remainder of the projects are layered over the 5-year period, and they're scheduled when funding is available in an effort to levelize annual cost as much as possible. This bar chart shows the percent of capital projects or CIP that is debt financed, and the orange line shows the debt equity ratio. Austin Energy finances 50 to 70% of its projects with commercial paper if the projects have a life of 30 years or more. When the commercial paper is reached, it is converted to long-term bonds. You may remember some of this being discussed in the rate review. For a few years, Austin Energy will increase its debt funding of assets until future rate increases are adequate to rebuild cash reserves. When cash reserves are replenished and maintained, the cash reserves can then be used to help stabilize future rates. The debt equity ratio is based on cumulative debt compared to cumulative debt and equity. This ratio is expected to remain close to our 50% debt target as shown by the orange horizontal line on the chart. The revenue forecast for fiscal year 2014 is 1.8% higher than for fiscal year 2013 budget. It includes the recent base rate increase and the outside City of Austin customer settlement, which reduced revenue by about $6 million. Revenue drivers for the electric utility are weather, growth, and market price. In this forecast, normal weather is assumed. We don't predict weather, we assume weather to be normal based on a 10-year average. Growth is based on published economic indicators reduced by expected energy efficiency savings and solar installations. Fuel cost and market projections are developed assuming normal plant outages. Small pass-through increases are expected for power supply, transmission expenses, which are included in the regulatory charge, and energy efficiency expenses, which are included in the community benefit charge. This chart shows the 5-year electric revenue forecast by billing component. These are the line items that appear on your bill. Starting from the back, the power supply adjustment is the largest component. Changes are driven by market prices, purchase power agreements, and growth. The next component from the back, in yellow, is the energy component, showing small increases in 2016 and in 2018. The only other significant increase is in the green regulatory component, and this is due to the continued increase in ERCOT's transmission build-out needed to relieve congestion. All other revenue components increase gradually due to growth in number of customers and customer usage. Austin Energy's sale forecast is shown by megawatt hour and by sector, and the average annual growth rate is 1.3%. It's also interesting to note that 50% of our megawatt hour sales are used in the commercial sector, as shown in the pie chart on the bottom. In contrast to the previous megawatt hour sales chart, almost 90% of our customers are residential. And this is shown here in the number of customer forecasts by class. Customer growth is expected to be about 1% per year. To test affordability, Austin Energy's forecast average system rate is shown by the orange dotted line. It is compared to the 2% growth rate, which is the solid black line. With a 1.9% base rate increase in 2016 and a 1.5% base rate increase in 2018, Austin Energy is below the 2% maximum. Pass-through charges are also included in the average system rate. The forecast of average monthly residential bills, assuming 1,000 kilowatt-hour usage, shows a gradual increase of $7 over the forecast period through 2018. As Austin Energy plans for the next fiscal year, we are encouraged by the expected growth in electric sales as residential construction increases and the commercial and industrial sectors expand. But growth also presents a challenge for the utility. Construction cost to meet this growth uses cash and increases our debt long before recovery through actual customer usage is billed. Our generation plants are aging, increasing the risk for unplanned outages, and the ERCOT market continues to change, creating uncertainty in prices and resources. Cash reserves are at the lowest levels in decades, with replenishment expected to begin in 2015. Maintaining our competitive workforce and retaining employees continues to also be difficult for Austin Energy. Austin Energy's 5-year forecast integrates solutions to meet some of these challenges and expects to improve the financial condition of the utility while continuing to deliver electricity and serving its customers. For your convenience, we've listed some contacts, and again, I'm Ann Little, Chief Financial Officer for Austin Energy. On behalf of Austin Energy, I thank you for your time.